Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, a massive win for Disney. I know, weird, right? But to be objective here, whilst I do videos like the videos I do have to report when Disney's doing good stuff. I don't want Disney ultimately to fail. I actually want them to make good things. It does seem that they're hitting the ground running on good things when it comes to animated films, as you saw from the title. Maybe. Anyway, Inside Out 2 has done incredibly well. $295 million global. So that's really decent, actually. I think it's the second highest grossing animated opening of all time domestically. So we'll take a look at this. Do hit subscribe if you're new here, folks. Turn the bell notifications on. And yeah, let's take a look. So, Deadline has really good write-ups of all of this stuff every single week. But this is an interesting one. Predictions, do you think it will have legs? That's the real clincher here, isn't it? Do you think this film's going to have legs? I don't know. It's my question to you. I watched the first Inside Out. I can't remember when it was released, but I did watch it. And I thought it was a fine film. It was perfectly fine. Right, there was nothing really wrong with it. It was... yeah, it felt like... it. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the old school kind of Pixar films. That's the impression I had from it. It felt very much of the old era. And maybe it was. I need to take a look at see who was working there at the time. So, yeah, will it have legs? Remains to be seen. We shall see. But a good opening anyway. So even if it doesn't have great legs, the opening is pretty solid. So no anxiety here as Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2 positively crushed its opening with a $295 million worldwide debut. And it says that includes an astonishing $140 million from only 38 international box office markets. It's not a huge opening, actually. Sometimes they open with like 70 markets. So that's really good, genuinely. The film, which has exceeded all expectations, continued to spread joy around the globe throughout the session and still has such majors as France, Italy, Spain, China, Brazil and Japan to come. But I don't know whether the content of the film will put the likes of China off or not. Because it might do. So when using current exchange rates and in like-for-like markets, the $295 million global start is bigger than animation opening record holder The Super Mario Bros. Movie. Using a similar metric, the Kelsey Mann directed Inside Out sequel is the best international animation opening of all time, surpassing Frozen 2's $135.4 million. Inside Out also has the biggest overseas and worldwide opening of 2024. Now, those figures are impressive, but let's just bring it back down to earth briefly. It's important to note that theatre prices are significantly more expensive than they were before. And that's not about inflation. They've implemented variable ticket prices of where you sit and the sort of quality. Like, they're more expensive than they were. Not the same with Super Mario Brothers, obviously. But the likes of... this says Frozen, right? So Frozen 2's. It's not going to be the same. If you're going to compare it, you have to compare bums on seats. So the average ticket price is more expensive. So technically speaking, more people went to watch Frozen 2 than they did Inside Out 2. And that's not being down on it. The film's done very, very well. But that's just a basic fact. Because they can't... They haven't factored that in. They haven't in what they've just said there. So that is important to note. And something you won't get from Deadline. But you'll get from me. Anyway, before we dig into the details, let's also note that the last weekend's champ, Sony's Bad Boys Ride or Die, barely slowed. So that's done really well. 38% drop. That's crazy good. That's really, really, really good. Like, that's great. So it's done $102.4 million overseas. Global is now $214.6 million. That's done really, really well. Like, that's done great, actually. So let's look at Inside Out 2. So, what's it done? Latin America, they absolutely loved it. Which is like, yeah, they did really, really well. Number one in all markets, Inside Out 2 grossed $61 million across the region of Latin America. So it scored the highest opening weekend of all time in Colombia. And the second biggest in Mexico, which is just crazy. Argentina, Central America, Chile, Uruguay. In Europe, so it did $42 million with many majors in the region not even open yet. Turkey gave the movie the biggest start ever for any film, while in Israel this was the 5th biggest start ever. In the UK, $13.9 million for 3 day. It says that was the biggest opening weekend of the year. That's, yeah, I guess kind of to be expected. There's not really anything out here, to be fair. There's a general feeling of people wanting to escape the general election that we're having in the UK and all the other garbage that's going on in the world. So across Asia Pacific, Inside Out 2 generated $37 million. But remember, it hasn't opened in Japan or China yet. So, yeah, that's going to do really, really well. Korea and Philippines did great. Number 2, Korea was anyway. In the market with 14.9 million. Had the second biggest animated opening ever. So basically it has broken a whole bunch of records. But I do wonder, and here's the top 10 markets. Mexico, $30.2 million. Korea, 14.9. UK, 13.9. So on and so forth all the way down. IMAX Global Hall's done really well, 14.5. But the majority of their money does come from the States, so they've done really well there. So, yeah, it's done really well, $295 million worldwide. It is important to note that these films, generally speaking, do have a budget of $200 million, so you need $400 million to break even just on production budget. I don't think this one was marketed that much, but you're still looking at $500+ million to start turning a profit. Which, you know what, it probably will do that, but it hasn't broken even yet. That's important to note. It hasn't broken even yet if it's on the higher end of that scale. Now, will this film go on to do gangbusters? Yeah, I mean, I think it probably will, to be honest. It's got really good reviews. Like, people are generally, like, they're really liking it. You know, 96% audience score, 92% critics. I'm surprised the critics isn't actually higher, to be honest. But I mean, that's about, I mean, audience scores, people are liking that. If we just look at the top audience scores. Incredible movie, establishes ideas as tangible representations of psychology. One of the best Disney movies currently, which is, I mean, that's not really saying anything, is it, to be fair? But yeah, $295 million. Not bad. Not bad at all. Pretty damn good. Disney secures a win. This is a big win for Disney. Still hasn't broken even, though. But there's nothing opening up against it. Literally nothing at all. So this will do well for a few more weeks. And even if it drops off, say, 50% next week, right? You know, and it does $150 million. There you go. It's done its production budget. And then it's got like another week until it starts to go into profit, right? So 3 weeks and it should go into profit. It's not bad. It's not too bad. It's almost done. Yeah, it's pretty good. But what do you guys think? Do you think it'll have legs? Let me know down below. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye now.